Recently, I've been playing through Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey. I'm about halfway through Odyssey, and I beat Origins, and I'm just kind of blown away by these games and how little praise and attention they get. There's a pretty major reason why Odyssey didn't get the attention that it deserved, and that's because a little game called Red Dead Redemption 2 came out like a few weeks after Odyssey released, and Odyssey didn't get the greatest reviews, although I think it's a bit higher reviewed than the past several games in the series. I'm not a huge single player open world game type of person. I enjoy these games, but I was blown away by this game, and I knew that I had to make a video about it, but I didn't quite know what to say. I didn't quite know what to do because there's so much here. So I just decided, like, I'm just gonna gush about this game for a little while, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. Playing through Odyssey and somewhat Origins made me realize why I never really finished these open world games, these long adventures across these giant landscapes like Skyrim and even something like GTA. I never seemed to finish these games. I realized it's because they don't usually take you on an adventure across a land. There's a lot of backtracking in a lot of these games, and I think that's where the distinction of like open world versus sandbox games comes in. GTA, you spend a lot of time in the same areas doing similar things, and it's very unlike in Origins or Odyssey where you're adventuring across this giant land with all these new sights to see. And I sort of realized, like, that's what I like about this game, and that's what's pulling me through it. That's why I beat Origins, and that's why I'm on my way to beating Odyssey, is because I want to see the next thing, whether it's the next place or the next part of the story. Odyssey's virtual ancient Greece is so incredibly beautiful and fun to run around in, climb on, discover things. The characters, the gods. The setting is a lot more, I guess, iconic than previous settings. Like Origins, you know, you've got Cleopatra and Caesar and stuff like that, but there's so many characters and places that you'll recognize and be like, oh damn, that's Leonidas. Like in the opening scene, it's basically like 300 where they're fighting the Persians, and you use his spear sort of like as your dagger. You don't have a hidden blade, you use his spear. You know, you meet Socrates and Hippocrates. You go to Athens and Sparta. Of course, like all the gods, and the games have gotten more mythical, starting with Origins, I guess. You know, you fight these crazy monsters, and not just like guys with swords and shields. The game has you sailing across these islands. You are joined by a cast of characters, and you meet a ton of different characters along the way that really make it feel like an Odyssey. Like the title is very apt. The main story, I guess you could call it, is very good. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, it's just engaging. I want to see what happens next. You also have a lot of agency because you can choose what you say now. It makes a big difference. And I don't know if it actually makes a big difference in the end, but it feels like it. And I think that's what really matters. I feel like I'm having an impact on the story. The story is also presented much better because of the cutscenes. In Origins, you had these weird camera shots where you were just like kind of standing in front of the person that you were talking to, and they would sometimes move their arms or whatever. But basically every conversation that you have in Odyssey is this cutscene with animations, great facial animations. The camera isn't just this static thing, it's actually moving around, following characters, and it just brings you into the game more, and it makes you pay attention to the story a lot better. I think the reviews that came out for this game around the time of its release had this embargo sort of thing where they couldn't talk about the cultist system, but this is basically like if you played Origins, there is the Order, and there was the ibis and the hippo and the crocodile and all these evil people that killed your son or had a hand in killing your son, and you go systematically and kill them. The cult system in this game is, one, a lot more interesting than the order in Origins, and two, it's sort of a side quest. You have to do things to discover these cultists. It's a system where you find clues to unmask these evil people, and then they can be marked on your map and you can go kill them, and they have legendary gear, and it's totally like this hunt for these bad guys. And it's not just, I found information on the next guy that you have to kill. Okay, this game, you actually find clues on these cultists, and you can't find them, you can't kill them unless you do certain side quests or find certain clues on other people, these little notes that you'll get, and it's just so interesting. It's crazy how they basically took the main plot from Origins and turned it into a more interesting system that really makes you feel more like an assassin, that you're finding clues, sort of like in the original game. Like you're trying to discover who these people are and where they are, and then you can go and kill them. The game also has some really good side quests. It takes you all over the map. I think that's special because that makes you feel like, oh, I'm actually discovering these things, I'm exploring. It's not a game where you will see everything unless you really want to, unless you seek it out. A common criticism is that the map is actually too big, and I only think this is a problem if you're a completionist, and if you are a completionist and you like really long games, then this is the game for you. The same opinion pieces normally mention how there's tons and tons of side quests to do. I never really felt like any of that was filler. I thought that every side quest that I've done has been pretty fun and has an interesting story attached to it. And honestly, I think the main quest and the side quests are about on par with The Witcher 3, honestly. I guess I'm just bothered that this huge team of people got together, made something ginormous, this huge adventure, and after years of building and innovating, and you have this massive game that people are just like, it's too big now. It's too big. Why don't they just, size it down? I don't have time to play all these huge 70-hour games. What? Then you have a game like Red Dead Redemption 2 that comes out a few weeks later and has like one of the highest critical scores on Metacritic and stuff like that. Like it's this masterpiece, this incredible work of art, but that's fine. That's also a huge game, but it's really good. The story is very cinematic, so we'll give it a pass. As far as gameplay goes, the head-to-head, toe-to-toe combat of you hitting other dudes with your sword or spear or whatever, it's better than Origins, but it's not amazing. It has more skills. There's a lot more going on. You can do more than just like your standard heavy, light, charge up attack, flurry attack. At the moment, it does feel kind of like an in-between, where they did advance it. They built upon it quite a lot. There's more skills and stuff for you to worry about, but I think the game could have really used some sort of enemy intelligence boost, I guess. There's a lot of strategies that just work, and you don't really have to think about how you engage these enemies. Most guys have a shield and a spear or whatever. Most of your attacks, like your special attacks, will break shields. It makes the game kind of boring that there's not specific ways that you have to do certain things or else you're going to get messed up. You can kind of use the same strategy on most enemies. Where the game really shines, though, is the part that people like to dunk on, and that's the stealth part. Despite what people say, this is still very much a stealth game. You have these massive forts with tons of strong enemies that you could not in a million years take on all at once. Instead, you're incentivized to sneak around, use your bow, assassinate people one by one. It's a lot of fun. and it's how the game is meant to be played, and otherwise it's really hard. I won't get in too deep with the gear system, but be known that this is very much like a action RPG. You're finding armor this time. In Origins, there was a way to upgrade your armor and things like that, but you didn't actually get new gear. You just had outfits. There's a lot of stats in this game. There's a lot of numbers. There's a lot of leveling. It is fairly strict with how powerful you are. So taking on an enemy 2 levels higher than you, they're just going to be a damage sponge. Overall, it's fine. I enjoy it. It's a engaging element of the game, and it keeps you searching for gear here and there. But the best part of this is the transmog system. You can choose what your gear looks like despite its stats. So if you get a new chest piece and it looks like crap, then you can just apply the style of your nice looking chest piece, and you can do that for everything, even your weapons. And as always, the game has its climbing system, its free running system, and of course, it's not like you're in a city or anything like that. You're not climbing up huge buildings, but you do have large mountains, and it is sort of more like Breath of the Wild, where you can basically climb up anything. You don't need to have some sort of handhold, but that's fine. I mean, I guess if you're a Assassin's Creed purist, you're going to be like, oh, this isn't very realistic or whatever, but if you compare it to basically any other game, like The Witcher 3, for example, you have way more capability than Geralt does in that game. In Skyrim, like, you're just jumping up the side of mountains. If you think about this game not as an Assassin's Creed game necessarily, but just as an action RPG, then it's a fantastic system, and it's welcome here. It makes the game and the exploration that much better. The sad thing about Odyssey is that the game gets it from both sides. Like, fans and not fans criticize the game, but for different reasons. The fans are obviously upset that it is more just an action RPG. There's a lot of loot. You can't kill people sometimes with just one hit of your blade. It also gets it from non-fans who think that the game is too big, it's too bloated. It's a classic example of Ubisoft open world design, but I don't really agree with that. I think that something like Far Cry 5 is a lot worse because it's this sandbox that you're going back and forth and doing the same things over and over again, whereas Odyssey has this amazing story that's pulling you across these islands and introducing you to new characters. And I honestly think that if this game had been released at a different time, if it had slightly better systems, you know, some of the things were ironed out, if it wasn't released just a year after Origins, this game would be hailed as a masterpiece, perhaps. I don't think the 82 or 83 on Metacritic that it has is fair, because if you don't play every game that comes out, every new RPG or every new open world game, then you will be blown away by this game. You will be like, damn, why did nobody tell me about this? If you guys have been on the fence about this game, I would definitely recommend picking it up. I think as I'm recording this right now, it's on sale for like $20. Ubisoft games always go on sale all the time. Every other weekend, they're having like a 70% off sale. So even though the game is worth $60, I would definitely say wait. Don't buy it for that much. I think I got it for like $15. It's just so worth it. It's so much fun. You're not going to be disappointed. The story is great. The gameplay is great. The exploration and world are great. And I can't say enough good things about it.